Hey everybody, it's Jim here, and today is April's Q&A. Let's get started. Don asks, do you have an opinion on 4 and 5 watt amplifiers? I have the Vox AC4 and I'm not sure if I'm totally happy with it. My friend has the Marshall 5 watt and he's not sure if he likes his either. We can be swayed. As a matter of fact, I do have an opinion on 4 and 5 watt amplifiers, and more specifically, I have owned 2 separate Vox AC4s, one combo and one head and speaker cabinet. The first one I had was the Mark I, where it was the cream Toilex and the brown grill. That was the head and the cabinet. I really enjoyed that, and it got me through school as a practice amp. I didn't really record with it, but I thought it sounded pretty good. But when I moved, I ended up selling it to Dave Nelson, the co-host of the Audiomo podcast, because I was trying to really downsize and really, I needed the money. When I moved out to California a few years later after that, I needed another small little amp, and I remembered how fondly I thought of it. I bought one of the combos with the blue Toilex. I thought it was great, except it was just missing a little something, and I was kind of sitting where you were right now. I didn't know if I loved it or not. The trick to me that made me say, okay, this thing is fantastic, I paired it up with a high quality external cabinet. I used my orange 2x12 and my orange 1x12 close back, and when I bypassed the stock speaker and used those, all of a sudden I went from an amp that I was like, okay, this sounds, all right for a good practice amp, to an amp that I was happily recording with and I used on a few albums. I found that amp with a full drive 2 for a little bit of overdrive, but not like super gain, was an amazing sound and one of my favorites for that genre. So my advice to you would be invest in a decent cabinet for it. And the same thing goes for the Marshall. That one especially even more so, because it'll get really boomy with that stock speaker in it. It's well worth it, and that will also allow you, once you buy a really good speaker cabinet, you can start experimenting with other small wattage heads, and you don't have to worry about spending as much money as if you were buying a combo. Now, staying in line with the amplifiers, Steven asks, can you recommend a small practice amp, just a plain tube or solid state amp without too many digital gadgets? Depends on your budget. If you want to keep it on the cheaper side of things, I don't mind those kind of mini heads, and if you're wanting something with gain, those aren't bad. If you want to spend a little bit more, the amp I really liked was the Blackstar KT88 as far as the gain goes. That actually got a pretty convincing Mesa Boogie sound out of it. That thing was awesome. Hard to come by, but if you can find one, they sell for about $400 used. That's a bargain. I really like the Blackstar that I have. Again, same thing, you can find one of the 6L6 versions or EL84 versions for, $300, $400, $500 used in good shape. Those are good buys. Other than that, the aforementioned Vox AC4 is another one that I'm a big fan of. Alright, this next question is one I didn't like. I didn't like this question because I didn't want to answer, but I said anything within reason I would answer. Augie asked me if I could only keep one, would it be the Custom Shop Jaguar or the Telecaster? Now forgive me if I'm wrong, but didn't you ask me a ridiculous question in the very first Q&A as well? Yeah, you're not making this easy on me. This is a tough one, but it is within reason. So, if I had to pick between the two custom shops, I thought about this one for a bit. This wasn't a snap decision. I would take the Jaguar because I feel like it is much harder to find a Jaguar at that level than it is to find a Telecaster at that level. Not that that other Telecaster isn't amazing. However, I did originally buy that guitar to replace the Custom Shop Telecaster that was the same model of it, and I don't feel like I'm missing anything with it. It's like, oh, I feel right back at home with it. It's not like, oh, this is just a little not as good, something whatever. That one is amazing, whereas I've played so many Jaguars, I've never played a Jaguar as good as this Custom Shop. And then when I got in the 60th anniversary and I almost made the boneheaded decision of keeping that one and selling the Custom Shop, playing it back to back, I was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. And by the way, that blue Jag has sold. And right now I'm really happy I don't have 2 kids. Augie seems like the kind of person that would ask me to pick between them. Bruce wants to know, does modding a budget guitar make sense if you're not worried about resale, or is there some intrinsic value to the more expensive gear? Can you take a budget Tele and make it sound and act like a far more expensive Fender for less than buying a Fender? Alright, really, that's 2 separate questions, so I'm going to address each individually here. Modifying a cheaper guitar makes sense if you already love everything else about it that can't easily be changed. As in, does it have a really good weight to it? Do you love the neck on that guitar? Is it something that feels very comfortable, very familiar for you? And is it something that, just means a lot to you for one reason or another outside of that, and you never see yourself selling it? If that's the case, sure, have at it. Knock yourself out. There's not really anything to be lost there at that point, and value is in the eye of the beholder at the end of the day. But as long as you know, and it sounds like based on the way that you worded this question, that should you decide to sell that guitar at any point, that you're going to be, not getting all of your money back, then that's cool. I would recommend keeping the stock parts lying around then, so you can reinstall them and then resell the parts that you initially bought to modify it afterwards, so you don't lose as much in the deal. And as for the second part of that question, yeah, you can manipulate sound in many different ways, whether that's in the box, meaning in the DAW after you've already recorded it via EQ or different IRs or different kind of recording and mixing techniques. That's one way of going about it. And the other thing to keep in mind here is it's never gonna feel as good, in my opinion, as a super high-end guitar, unless you get extremely lucky. We're talking about the really low end, like some of the stuff like one of the cheaper Harley Bentons. That guitar plays great. It did really well in the sound comparison, but when I play it back to back with the Fender Custom Shop, it's still night and day, even with me working on the frets and all that stuff. So take for that what you will. And while we're on Harley Bentons, Marcus formatted this like a WFAN phone call from the 90s. First time, long time. Where do you see Harley Benton in the guitar space in the next 5 years? Who will be the first popular professional to be seen using them, and why will it be Jack White? Thanks, I'll hang up and listen. In 5 years, I think Harley Benton are going to be doing even better than they are right now. They have a killer business model. They don't have all this extra overhead. They have people like me who demo these guitars on their own dime and then rave about them on YouTube because they can't believe the value that you're getting for the amount of money. They're keeping a lot of the other companies kind of on their toes and making them kind of spec their guitars at lower prices a little bit better than they would have otherwise. I feel like it's nothing but good things for the community in that aspect. And as long as they're delivering a decent product for the customers, I don't see them going anywhere. As far as who will be the first popular professional to play a Harley Benton live, Jason Giambi. Alright, I'm going to wrap this up with a comment that I responded to on my phone, but I didn't apparently read it correctly, because when I was checking for questions for this video, I saw this and I said, wait, what the hell? It comes from Jay Wilder. Jim, would you consider accepting guitar donations? I have some lying around that I should probably sell on eBay, but I don't want to mess with the hassle. Would rather send you to fund the channel or make videos with. Just a thought. Now that I've fully taken in Jay's question here, I have two things that come to my head. First of all, that is by far one of the most generous things I've ever seen, and I could never expect something like that. I mean, that's wild, especially given how crazy it is to ship guitars these days. I don't know what kind of guitars you're talking about here, but that's regardless, even if they were just $100 or $50 guitars, just the idea of you sending any of them to somebody for nothing to help them out, that is insane to me. And I don't know. The second part is I immediately thought to myself, now that I fully understand the actual question at hand here, is I would be willing to do that if I was able to somehow not only just make the content with them, but then take a few of them and give them back to the people of this channel that might not have guitars, or might know somebody like a little kid that they have or something like that, or a friend that's down on their luck or can't afford something. Maybe fix them up and then send them off to them with maybe just like the shipping being exchanged, so that everybody breaks out even here, and that you don't have to pay anything out of pocket, because I couldn't in good conscience take anything for free like that entirely and have it all on your dime. And the same thing for any work that I would want to do for other people. I wouldn't really want to charge anybody for any of that stuff. So maybe we could work something out. Like I said, shoot me an email. The link is down below. But now that I know that, I was just like, wow, this guy is like the nicest guy in the whole world. It was one thing when you were a Patreon, but this is just like, this is something else, man. And on that bombshell of a question, I think nothing's going to top that one. So it's going to be where I'm going to end this video. We're going to be doing this every month. I'll be making a post in about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks or so for May's Q&A. And if you want in on it, all you got to do is post on there. You might find yourself on a video in the future. However, tomorrow, all things according to UPS, then I will have the Harley Benton demo out for you guys. I'm really excited for the Mosrite copy, not Mosrite, Mosrite. I know. So leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you then for that video. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.